For the following logarithmic function, graph the function, give the domain and range and interval notation, and write the equation of the asymptote. So, in order to draw this function, it's probably helpful first to just think about what the graph of your basic logarithmic function looks like. So, there's always going to be a vertical asymptote along the y-axis, and one unit in front of that asymptote, and on the x-axis there's a single point which the logarithm passes through, where it changes from growing very rapidly to growing very slowly. Now from that, if there are any vertical or horizontal shifts, and you can tell just by added constants. So an added constant on the outside of your logarithm is a vertical shift, and an added constant on the inside of your logarithm is a horizontal shift. Horizontal shifts are probably the easiest to work with first because everything moves to the left and right, including your asymptote, and I always find it easiest to graph the asymptote first for these. So this asymptote is going to go 2 units, and it's going to go to the right because horizontal shifts go in the opposite direction of their sign. So this is located now at +2. Now, usually there would be a single point, 1 unit, in front of that asymptote. But then there's also a vertical shift, so that gets shifted down 1 unit. So we'll move that point there. And then lastly, the base of the logarithm does affect its shape, but usually you don't have to worry too much about that. But it can be helpful to know that if you go 1 unit up and 1 unit to the right, that will give you how quickly a base 2 logarithm is increasing. So you can draw your graph through that point and then down toward the asymptote. And that's a perfect graph. Now, the domain and range, you can get these just by looking at the graph. But if you want to memorize a few things, first off, you could memorize that the range of a logarithmic function will always be -infinity to +infinity. The domain starts at the asymptote, so it starts at +1, or sorry, that's actually at 2, and we're not including the asymptote, so I used a parentheses around it. And the graph is on the right-hand side of that asymptote, so it's going from 2 to +infinity. So there is a domain restriction for logarithms, but there's no range restriction. Lastly, the equation of the asymptote. It's a vertical asymptote, and vertical lines always have equations that look like x equals some constant. And that constant is just the x value through which the function passes through. So that's at 2. So the vertical asymptote has the equation x equals 2.